The Technomancer, Dragon Age in Space. The Technomancer took me on a roller coaster of emotions, and not necessarily in a good way. This game tells the story of a young Technomancer living on Mars. You eventually set out to find information on the planet Earth. This is the game's overall objective. But of course there are other inhabitants of Mars that want this info as well. They want access to the Technomancer's secrets. Being a Technomancer means that you have these awesome electrical powers that the other residents on Mars don't. You do get to customize your Technomancer in the beginning, as well as start to build your specific Mancer based on your playstyle. You can be a warrior, rogue, or guardian. Basically, you can choose quick close combat, quick and range combat, or guarded close combat. All of which can be switched to mid-combat just by changing your fighting stance. But you're better off sticking to one style. I personally dumped all my skills into the warrior and Technomancer skill tree, upgrading my electrical powers and staff attacks. I wasn't too big of a fan of the game during its first few hours. The amount of choices and skill perks were far too overwhelming for me to grasp at first, leaving me to believe that maybe introducing the skill tree at the start of the game wasn't too great of an idea. You're practically asked to make a choice on something you have no idea about. But as the game went on, by hour 5 I was hooked. Leveling up felt satisfying and addicting as any good RPG should. The story also started to get hooked to me as I was learning about all the characters who inhabited Mars. This game is most comparable to Dragon Age. This isn't necessarily an open world game, but an open hub game where you travel from hub to hub to complete tasks and take out enemies along your way for XP and loot. You also have the choice to drain your fallen enemies for serum, which is a currency on Mars. The only issue though is that doing this will kill that person, and life is still valued on Mars. And all this may seem like it doesn't matter, but much like Dragon Age, you also have companions with you. You can bring any two along and change their weapons and gear, but they pay attention to every choice you make as you play the game, and if they don't agree with your decision, they can and will leave you. So if you do get attached to any of your companions, make sure you listen to them and try to stay on their good side, which can be done by helping carry out their requests and side missions, or to choose the answer they feel is best during a main quest. The best is that their kills do count towards your XP, so they never feel like they get in the way of your progress and are great to have by your side. My biggest issues with this game is its combat and lack of overall variety. Combat is probably the least satisfying aspect of this game. You do have awesome moves depending on skills you choose to unlock, but the weapons stay the same throughout, just with different stats. You can upgrade your weapon through crafting, but even if you pour your skills into crafting, you still have to find the diagrams to craft a new part, and the world really isn't engaging enough to want to go out and do this. Because by hour 15 to 25, this game really starts to get boring as it takes you nowhere new. You go to 3 different hub cities throughout the game's campaign, but for all 25 hours you're going back and forth between the same 3 places. You literally get a task, complete it, are told to return to the city to update your progress, then are told to go back to the same place to do something else, then told to come back. Then you're told to go to a different place, complete, come back. Go to the first place, come back, rinse and repeat for 25 hours. I got so tired of walking through the same paths over and over. The scenery literally doesn't change from hour 1 to hour 25, other than the city you return to turn your mission progress in. And the worst is you have to fight the exact same enemies in the exact same spot over and over and over. And the combat itself can feel super cheap and frustrating at times, and is really trash. The hit detection is straight up garbage. Enemies don't really have a block animation, your attacks just sometimes won't do damage when you can clearly see your staff going right through them. This poor hit detection greatly hinders any sense of satisfaction as you pull off cool moves and dodge your enemies' attacks. Meanwhile, you don't have this luxury. If their weapon hits you, you take damage, no questions asked. And any area can definitely have you outnumbered with multiple heavies and ranged enemies, which will lead to constant deaths even on the game's easiest difficulty. And if you die in the middle of a city, you have to restart from where you entered the city. And guess what? Fight the enemies you already fought. This can thankfully be overcome by manually saving after you complete an enemy encounter, as this game only autosaves when you climb a ladder or open a door. But when you come back later, they will be back, even if you kill them. Honestly, I think choosing to kill for the bad karma but in return not having to deal with that creature or human enemy anymore would have really made the choice of kill or not much more meaningful and consequential, but unfortunately this choice doesn't go that deep. The combat highlight is definitely the game's bosses, but you don't have to do much to defeat them other than spam attacks and dodge. Every encounter, especially the final encounter, all ultimately feel anticlimactic. There's a lot to do in the Technomancer, there's just not enough variety to want to do it all. I give the Technomancer a 6.5 out of 10. If you played the Technomancer, tell me what you thought about it. It's on the comment section below if you haven't played it. Tell me if you plan on picking it up. Thumbs up. If you like the video, subscribe if you're new to the channel. And tune in Monday for first impressions where you find out what game we're playing next. Thanks for watching.
Yeah! We're going to take you down! You won't get away! The last fight before freedom, Zachariah!